Hi, everybody. I'm Laura,
And I'm Allison.
and this is the Earp Top 5 podcast for
For
freedom.
freedom! On today's episode, we're going to be talking about Wynonna Earp episode 407 titled Love's All Over. And this is the return of Wynonna Earp. We're at the mid-season now. We're back.
Yeah, we're back. It was a great episode. I mean, it had everything. I feel like Stefan from SNL. It had humor. It had gut punches. It had sadness. It had drinking. It had strippers.
Strippers. Yeah, that's a big one. I think that it was a good dip back into the pool, they say, to kind of get into the show's episodes a little easier. Because I feel like the next couple are going to hurt us pretty badly. Emily only gives us fun every now and then. We get gut punch a lot, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that it was great to kind of like dip our toes in the pool very lightly and lightheartedly this episode to kind of get back into the Earping. Because I feel that it's going to get a lot more heart-wrenching as the episodes go on. So I really liked that this one was a fun one, and it was written by Shelley Scarrow, and we love Shelley. So
definitely the calm before the storm, I would say. The episode 7s always are the fun ones because it's right, like you said, it's right when the kind of the peak of the season is turning the corner. Now, unfortunately or fortunately for us, it was the season was split. So this is kind of like a mid-season, but it's also like a premiere. So we get like the best of both worlds.
I did feel a bit weird watching it just because it felt like it was supposed to be a premiere because it had been so long since we've seen episodes, but the episode itself felt nothing like a premiere because the story's already been established. Like we're in the middle of a season. Like this is not the beginning of the story. Like we're in the middle. So it was like I'm expecting it to be like a premiere. Like I can't wait. We're watching again. And then it's like, oh right, the story's continuing from when we watched last summer. Like this is the same going. So it was a bit weird. It took me a few commercial breaks to be like, all right, I'm in it. I'm good now. I'm caught up. I'm in the game. So
you would never know from this episode that it was filmed in the middle of a pandemic with how much people were touching each other.
Right, especially this episode.
There was a lot of touching going on. It's like how many times can we touch everybody?
Yeah. But before we get into our top 5 though, what did you think about the vibe of the show? Because I felt like it changed. Like the summer really gave it this like fresher feel.
Oh yeah.
I felt a lot like we were back in season 1, you know?
Yeah, it definitely like injected new life into no, you know what, that's like the wrong thing to say because like this show is great no matter what, but I feel like it's just like when the sun comes out on like a like after a cloudy day, because like the show is so dark at times, it just like had that kind of vibrancy to it.
And to have it be a funny episode, it was kind of all encompassing, just this lightheartedness. The weather was sunny. We get to see everyone in these new outfits, hardly any clothes. Did Wynonna wear a shirt the entire episode? I don't know.
Right? Yeah. So we saw a great shot in the beginning. So that's where I'm going to start off with. It's a great kind of sweeping shot of Summer in Purgatory, which led to, we saw Way Hot walking toward in a motel parking lot, walking toward the couch, which was there. And Nicole found it there, and there was a second proposal. I'm sorry, no, that was a fourth proposal because we had Nicole's proposal with Bolshar's ring, then Waverly's proposal with Bolshar's ring, then Waverly's proposal at the end of 406, and now Nicole's proposal on the couch in the middle of a parking lot.
They must really love each other.
In front of a motel. Just a little bit, I think. But so my top moment for the episode was Way Hot. It was a romance episode, I would say. It was all about love, and the one couple that epitomizes love on the show is Way Hot. And specifically, so I had 3 specific moments that I loved about them. One was the fourth proposal outside, which, as we have learned, because we're recording this the weekend of the premiere, and it was also the weekend of the Ghost River Triangle Con, and Emily revealed to some people that there was a full-length proposal filmed that may be released at some point for everybody to see. But
I had questions about that, but I'll add to that when you're done.
They did have to cut it for time do you want to say those questions
Yeah,
now,
well,
or do you
I
want
was
me to
just
move
gonna
on?
say, no, while we're talking about that couch scene, that was the reproposal, as I called it, was one of my moments in this episode as well, just because it was on the couch, which I feel is very important to this couple. If anyone knows anything about the show, they know that this couch is important. And so I was like, how funny is it that Nicole searched out this couch and like made it this big moment? And then I had questions about, well, where did the couch go? And
Yeah.
how did she find it? Was she on Craigslist or what? And, it's very possible that she searched it out. But my question is, when I saw this, when it first came on, the montage at the beginning with the proposal felt short to me. Like I was like, oh, I was expecting it to be the full thing. So it makes a lot of sense to hear that it was cut. Because I don't know if you guys know this. I'm a video editor. I do this as a living. And I could tell that was cut. It wasn't like they intended to shoot it as a montage. It was cut. Like you could tell.
Yeah.
And so I had questions when I was watching. I was like, oh, that's weird. Like, why'd they cut that? So anyways, now that I know that, it makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. We even the promo that they released at the end of 406, and Wynonna was singing that lullaby walking through the woods, they cut that as well.
You're right. They did. Yep.
They did cut that. So, I mean, a few things had to be cut for time, which is fine. I mean, I know we all want like a 5-hour episode, but unfortunately they're restricted to like 43 minutes and X amount of seconds for an episode. The other two specific moments were the way hot, what I like to call the way hot snuggles. And if you know me, there's a moment in this series, a way hot moment that is just one of my all-time favorites, and it's in 206 after they wake up from the spell, ironically another spell, and they're in the kitchen, and Waverly just leans into Nicole, and it's not like Nicole reaches out for her. They just know each other's there, and she just knows that she's gonna be able to fall into Nicole's like body, and Nicole will catch her. So there were two moments in this episode that I loved that just warmed my way hot heart. And it was right after Nedley toasted, and Waverly again leans into Nicole, and Nicole kisses her forehead, which was like even the Grinch's heart probably grew 3 sizes seeing that. And then there was another part at the end, which is, it was kind of like a role reversal because the spell was broken. Nicole immediately goes to snuggle into Waverly on the steps, and they kind of just totally ignore Dimitri there. And she says, she's like, I don't really know what happened, but I know you still love me. And Waverly says, I do. And it was this kind of role reversal where then Waverly kind of became the embracer, and Nicole was the embracee. And it just, again, those two moments,
those are always nice moments to fit into the episodes. I mean, like, because sometimes like that one from season 2 or 3 that you're mentioning, it was not even the focus of that scene. It just kind of like was a background, which makes it like super impactful. So I love that there was a couple of moments like that in this episode. So I do love the way hot moments. The couch proposal was one of my moments as well, though. So I'll just add on to that and just say I also thought it was great. I think that Nicole probably it said it had been a month. So Nicole's been searching for this couch for a month because she wanted it to be perfect, and I find that really heartwarming that she spent so much time looking for like a non-important, well, I mean, it might be important to them, but it's like a non-item like that she wanted to make important, like she could have done that anywhere, but she knew that this couch was meaningful, and so she wanted to make it special. So one of my favorite moments from the episode, and I don't think this will come as a surprise to anyone watching because it was a highlight for everyone, I think, and that is the return of none other than Bunny Loblaw.
Yes!
Because how can you not love Bunny? And I know that her character has its moments that aren't so nice. Bunny has a history. She's not always the nicest, but her comedy, like the things that she brings to the episode just kill me. Like I want to make a side note that I have watched seasons 1 and 2 of Jan on Hulu. This is Jan Arden's show that she films in Calgary. And after watching 2 seasons of Jan, when I saw Bunny, I immediately thought oh, it's Jan as her character on Wynonna Earp. Like, I wanted it to be Jan, like her character. Because Jan Arden herself is so great at everything she does, it just felt so great to have her there. But the return of Bunny, I think, came at a time because Jan Arden lives in Calgary.
Yeah.
During a pandemic, I'm sure that it was, easier to bring her on. I believe Emily said it was already planned, but they just got lucky that she was in Calgary because of a pandemic. Like, when it got rescheduled, she was quarantining at home anyway, so she was able to film, which I'm so glad, because I can't imagine this episode without Bunny. Like, some of the lines, like the whole story is Bunny falling in love with Waverly. Like, come on, that's classic. Shelley Scarrow, who came up with that? Because I died. And some of the lines, like, I mean, even the first time we see her, when she shakes Waverly's hand and she immediately rubs all this hand sanitizer on herself, and like maybe a nod to the pandemic, but also just like, she's so homophobic in the beginning.
Yeah.
Like, you're like, this can't be a real person. Like, this is insane. And she does come around a little bit in the end. I think she still isn't quite fully on their side in the end, but she maybe is coming around. But one of the funniest things that she said in this episode, and she said a lot of funny things, but one that just made me die laughing, and I don't know if it just caught me at a good moment, is when Wynonna walks in with that outfit. First of all, the outfit that Wynonna was wearing, girl.
Yeah.
I think you were in the wrong place.
Yeah.
But anyways, Bunny says, "This is your sister's engagement party. Did you have to go full on whore?"
Yes.
Died laughing because Wynonna, she was dressed really promiscuous, which good for her. She looked great.
That's like wearing white to a wedding.
Exactly. All the attention is focused on the wrong person at the engagement party. But anyways, the fact that Bunny told her that, I'm sure that Wynonna loved it. Like, she's probably like, "Oh, shut up, Bunny."
No, she said, she's like, "You're right, Bunny. I do look great."
Yeah. And she did. She did. Melanie Scrofano looked great.
That's a mother of two, everybody. Let's just let that sink in, okay? Yes, I agree with the bunniness, because that was actually one of my top moments, but I'm gonna elaborate on that by saying the meta of Bunny / Jan Arden. There was actually two meta moments. I don't know if you caught them both. I'll start with the Bunny / Jan Arden. So Wynonna brings Jan to the bar and tells Nedley to make her so slosh she thinks she's Jan Arden. Then subsequently, Bunny gets up on stage and sings Jan Arden's Insensitive and dedicates it to Waverly.
Yep.
So for those of you who don't know, may not know, or you probably do because, if you're in the fandom, but Jan Arden is like Canadian royalty in the music industry, and she is one of like the best Canadian singers out there.
So the fact that she sang on Wynonna Earp is huge.
So she sang her own song on Wynonna Earp. And it was just hilarious to see her, number one, be herself, playing Bunny, playing Jan Arden, it was just, the dominoes were falling. And then, yes, her just shift in mentality, like the homophobic stuff. And towards the end, she was somewhat accepting of them. And, I'm just going to predict it now. She's going to perform, if we get a wedding ceremony, she's going to be the officiant of that. The second meta moment, if you didn't catch it, was when Rachel went up to the bar trying to get booze once again. Nedley was telling her to go to school and make some friends. And Rachel says she has this recurring nightmare that she's naked in the auditorium and she forgets the words to the national anthem. Now, for those of you who don't know, Martina, who plays Rachel, is the official national anthem singer of the Toronto Maple Leafs. So having her say that, I caught it on the first watch, and I think I went back and I was like, wait a second. Oh my God, that's so funny. And then later on in the episode, when all that Bunny and Jan Arden stuff happened, I was like, they're killing me with this stuff. I mean, it's just fucking hilarious.
Yeah, it actually took me the second time to catch that Rachel thing, because I knew Martina sang. Martina has a beautiful voice, by the way. Go look her up. So I didn't catch it right away because I was just following along with the story, And then when I rewatched and realized that she said national anthem, I was like, oh, Shelley.
Yeah, it was just another like, now we talk about what do they call them, the boops to the fans, for us, for the fans to pick up on these things that are aimed towards us, but then to also have these things that are like cast member things. It was just like, it was beyond hilarious. So that was another one of my I just thought that was the best.
Yeah. Well, the return of Bunny has to be everyone's favorite. So
Yeah.
we'll agree that was a top moment. So
Oh,
what's one of your others?
I guess you mentioned it a little bit, but I want to say spelled up Wynonna or glittered Wynonna was another one of my favorites. She had similarities to Gunona
Mm-hmm.
in like her free spiritedness, but the way she was just on top of everything. The first thing was when she was in the barn with Waverly, and she was just like, you know, another thing that Nicole has, she has really nice boobs. I mean, you're still into boobs now, right? Because Eamon said that he was in love with Waverly when she got spelled up and she fell in love with Eamon, or Amon as she called him later on. And then so she's on him, and then when they walk into Shorty's and the three of them come up to Waverly, she kind of like rustles her way in, and she's just like, who needs to be serviced? I do. And then she took Bunny aside. Her outfit and everything was all to impress Eamon. When they were waiting right before Bunny got on stage, Eamon's telling Waverly and Nicole this story about him being a bullfighter and everything. And Wynonna climbs on top of him. Waverly's motorboat will never park in your marina, I think it was.
Oh, Lord.
That actor, Noam Jenkins, I believe is his name, to keep a straight face.
Right.
When Melanie / Wynonna is on top of you like that, saying those words, doing those gestures, I applaud him. And also, I don't think we've seen anybody climb somebody else like that since 109. Since one Waverly Earp climbed Nicole Hot, but that's beside the point there.
Glitter Wynonna was something else. And I have to say that like her whole self, the entire episode, even pre-glitter, she was a mess.
Yeah.
And so I think that when she was glittered, it only made it worse. Like that might be why she was so crazy about it. And because like the others were like, oh, I'm in love with you, be with me. But like she was like all over Eamon, you know? It might be because she's already in a bad headspace. Like you could tell like she was drunk in the back of the truck in the beginning and all this stuff. So it might be that she was just like already in a bad spot, that it hit her hard when she got the glitter.
I just think it relieved her of the burden for a while.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the episode, when everything was back to normal, she went back to that self-destructive pattern, and she immediately wanted to continue her pursuit of Eamon, even though like that was under a spell. But she's like, but you know what? That's obviously the best way to kind of self-destruct is to try to have sex with a demon again, I guess.
Yeah. I want to go to one of my next moments in the episode because you kind of mentioned it, was at the very end when the spell comes off of Wynonna and Doc specifically. They happen to be dancing together, and you can see the look on both of their faces when they realize the spell has been broken, but they still feel, you can tell there's still this, they're still drawn to each other. And Wynonna even says, I don't want to let go. And Doc kind of has to shrug her off, which was heartbreaking.
Yes.
And so I think it's a good moment to talk about because it definitely reiterates that, like, yes, they're in a bad place. And we did talk about this a lot with Tim on our episode of that we released last week, if you guys haven't listened yet. But Tim gave us a lot of insight in that relationship between Doc and Wynonna. But we've always seen that they have this really, really, really strong connection. But there was always this wrong place, wrong time mentality with them, that they could never be together because something is always happening outside of them. Wynonna has always done something. Doc has always done something. There's never a moment where the two of them are in the same place. And this
Yes.
showed that Wynonna shot Holt after Doc was trying to reconcile and forgive people and be better, and Doc didn't like it, and now they're at odds again. You could feel the connection. I don't even really have the words to say. It's just like
No,
when you
you're
see them
right.
together, it's like them on screen, they just have this very, very strong connection. And I was so sad when they pulled away.
Yeah. Well, Waverly mentioned it.
I think she said I can almost see the love radiating off of them, or some
Yeah.
sort of version of that. And then Dimitri was like, "Oh, it's not real," but I think it definitely was.
Yeah. I just feel I felt the same way. That was actually one of my moments as well. And for Doc to kind of like, he didn't just pull away, he like peeled out of her.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those things where you're just like, you felt it. It was a gut punch,
Mhm.
to just see how they, her heartbreaking, like, I don't want to let go, but he's still upset about it.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where like he's not an innocent party in any of this.
Right.
Like he's done bad shit. He knows that. And right now he just needs time to kind of rectify the situation in his own mind.
Mhm.
Because he's ready to like put the past behind him. He's ready to like just put all that stuff behind him and move on and move forward and look ahead. And then all of a sudden you have somebody like Wynonna who does that, shoots the guy in the back when he was ready to like, listen, that's what our families did back then. It doesn't
Right.
define us now. So I feel the same way. That was definitely one of my top moments.
I think that moment's going to sort of lead the way for the next few episodes with Doc and Wynonna, because we're already seeing how she's been in this whole drunken, like, I don't care mentality for most of the episode. But deep down, she still is upset about it. And, she still cares. So going forward, you can already predict that things are going to be really tough for her, and figuring out what's going to happen with her and Doc is going to be tough.
Yeah. My next moment, it kind of stems from that as well. The new couplings that were glittered, I thought was hilarious. I mean, the episode came back from commercial and Doc and Nedley were slow dancing together. And then if that wasn't funny, and by the way, I am saying it now, their ship name is Dandy, and you can't tell me otherwise. And then we panned across and it was Eamon and Bunny, and he asked her if she had a fuzzy tail in those trousers or those slacks. And she was like, why don't you go in and find out, or something along those lines. And then we had Nicole and Wynonna, because why not? The funny moment there was Nicole saying, I know you're going to be my sister-in-law, but does that mean that we can't do stuff? Followed by me. And then Wynonna goes, I think you're riding this bus to someplace we don't want it to go. And then Nicole says, and I'm paraphrasing here, you guys, even though I've seen the episode like 20 times, I'm still paraphrasing. Nicole says something like, but if we were to get naked, just for science, because if it's for science, I mean, that's legit. But yeah, I just think those couplings, and then to get back to, just for a hot second, the Winona and Doc dance, that made Wynonna awkward about getting naked. So she broke away from Nicole and turned and broke into the Nedley Doc pairing. And first she paired with Nedley, and Doc turned around and went to go pair with Nicole, but he felt like he couldn't dance with Nicole for something that we're going to bring up next. And then he went back and he danced with Wynonna, and then Nedley and Nicole started dancing. Perhaps a little hint as to maybe like a father-daughter dance coming up or something. Aww. Along those lines. We shall see. But yeah, the couplings that were glittered was one of my top moments.
That was probably one of the funnier things to return to commercial from.
Yeah.
And if you guys don't watch the specials that are attached to each episode, please go buy them on iTunes or what other platforms you have, because Allison Baker from IDW cuts together these behind the scenes specials for each episode with interviews of the cast and behind the scenes footage. And in this special specifically, Kat mentioned how great it was to have this little circle of love moment in the midst of a pandemic.
Right.
Because none of them have touched or hugged a friend for how many months they've been in quarantine. And then they get to go back and film this scene where they're all hugging. And she said it just felt great. And I was like, I could feel it. You know, it felt like they really were excited to be together again. But so now that we're talking about the people who were glittered, I wanted to bring up Doc and Cleo, because that moment to me was really interesting. One, seeing Cleo on screen again was great, because I was wondering where she had gone. Will we see her again? So I was really excited to see her. But the fact that it was Doc and Cleo was such an interesting pairing, which again speaks to, you could pair anyone on this show and it's magic on screen.
Yeah.
And I don't even think that Doc needed to be glittered for this moment to be so like special. But when he was glittered, first of all, Doc comes onto the Clanton land looking for Cleo, trying to figure out what happened to Ma'am. He had a moment previously in the episode where he asked Waverly what she did. So I think he genuinely went looking for Cleo because, again, he's trying to change. He's trying to be better. So I think that his intention was to actually go find her and figure out what was going on. And he walks on the land, sees her kind of crouched down, crying. She looks pretty rough. Looks like she's been sitting there crying alone for a while. And then he gets glittered. And I thought it was hilarious because almost to me, Doc being glittered was no different than Doc being not glittered, because he had
he's a smooth talker anyway.
Yeah, he had that charm. And he said, you're fixing to flood the whole damn county with them tears. And he said, seeing a girl cry will break any man's heart. And it's just like, those are things that Doc would say, not glittered, you know? And so I was like, this is a very special Doc moment, because it just felt like almost that he wasn't even glittered, even though we know he was, based on the special effects where we get this little like dramatic moment where he sees Cleo. But I just love Doc's personality and how he approaches those situations, because contrast it to the way Wynonna reacted as glittered. Doc's was just very like low key and charming, and I just really loved it. It was special, and I think that moment is what made Cleo vulnerable to kind of start talking. And we find out that she tells Doc that Nicole made the deal with Ma'am to get Waverly back in return for him.
I just want to backtrack for a second. When he went up to her, when he found her sitting there, and she said, "Are you here to kill me?" And he was like, "I promised your brother I wouldn't." She says, "But why? I want you to." And that just is like, this show makes you feel for characters you want to hate.
Right.
Like, she's, for all intents and purposes, she's the villain now. And the way it was, how like everything was like getting, how do you define like the glittering of it? Like just that kind of like glitter area. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, you had this kind of like darkness-ish kind of thing on the ranch area. Like, so those two scenes, the way they played back and forth until Doc left her and went back to the chaos, I guess, was just, it made the show feel balanced too. It made the episode feel really balanced. So when she said, she was like, "I'm so glad Nicole's covenant with Ma'am didn't work out." He said, "I understand, unfortunately." And I was like, so he understands, because again, he's not an innocent in all this. He's done bad shit. So he understands, like, I understand why she would have made the covenant about getting Waverly back. Obviously, that's the whole reason I went into the garden to begin with, was to kind of like salvage my soul, I guess. And so for him to come out and understand, but then when the opportunity came for him to dance with Nicole, like, he was just like, "I cannot." And it's like, I thought you were okay with it, dude. Like, what happened?
Well, I think that Doc, while trying to be better, is still going to take some time. And I foresee a conversation in the future between Nicole
Oh
and
yeah.
Doc. So I am very interested in that because I love them two paired together. So I'm not sure what a conversation will look like when Doc lets Nicole know that he knows.
Mm-hmm.
Because at this point, I think Waverly and Nicole are the only ones that know about what happened, that
Yeah.
the deal. So now that Doc knows, at some point he's going to say to Nicole that he knows now. So I'm interested to see what that will look like.
You were actually wondering about that
Yes,
when the teaser came out.
Yeah, that was one of my predictions, or one of my like hopes, was that who's going to find out that she made this deal? Is Doc going to know? Who's going to tell him? I love that it played out that way, though.
The other thing that happened in that scene between Cleo and Doc, which again was another like gut punch, was that she was like, "Why are you so?" I can't remember exactly what Cleo said. It was either like, "Why are you doing this?" And he's like, "Because that's what I am. I'm a sidekick." And I was
He said, "I'm a great sidekick."
Yeah, I'm a great sidekick. And I was like, dude, you're so much more than a sidekick. Come on.
Yeah.
And I really feel like Doc is having this, like, you want to call it a midlife crisis or whatever, but a crisis of conscience mostly.
Yeah.
Conscience mostly. Where he's reevaluating his life. Mm-hmm. And it's been going on for 100 and some odd years. And he's just reevaluating everything now. And it's like, I'm trying to be a better person. And in order to do that, these things have to line up. And, and it's just, I think he's on a journey for the rest of the season.
I think so too. I think that what we'll see of Doc, and we don't usually predict too much on here, so I won't say too much, but I think that what we're going to see of Doc is more in line with a season, like end of season 1 Doc, before he kind of went down the dark path, where he was like committed to the Earps. And maybe it was end of season 1, beginning of season 2, where before he kind of got into this kind of downward spiral. But I think that we're going to start to see, different sides of Doc, where it's not quite what we're used to seeing. Because I mean, in season 3, we know the season arc he had there. So I think that it's going to be much different.
Yeah. So those are my top 5.
I just had one quick last one, and it's super quick, but it's just that there was a convention, and I don't remember which convention it was at, where a fan asked Emily if she would ever make Nicole sing Waverly a song. And Kat Burrell, into the microphone, begged Emily, please do not make me do that. I don't like to sing. Please do not make Nicole. It was a joking, like, back and forth.
Yes.
And so when I saw Nicole run to the stage, grab the mic, she started singing the song from the
Let's Stay Inside.
Yeah, I was trying to think of the name. I died laughing because I was like, well, it might not be in the way that we thought, but Emily did it. She got Nicole to sing. She got Kat Burrell to sing. It was very short. You couldn't hear a lot of it, but I thought it was hilarious.
I just had a quick honorable mention.
Okay.
And that was for the guy who played Dimitri, the stripper Cupid.
Mm-hmm.
We missed our characters so much that, like, for me anyway, I focused more of my top 5 on them because I just missed it. But I think his portrayal and like just what he brought to the table this week, getting drunk with them at the strip club. And then at the very end, which is why I wanted to include him as an honorable mention, he says to Nicole and Waverly, who are pretty much completely ignoring him at this point because they're back in each other's arms.
Right.
But he says, the reason why I picked you, Waverly Earp, was because I've never seen love like this in forever. And as if you're watching this show and you didn't know, the way hot love is like supersedes any other love story ever.
Unmatchable.
Ever out there, for a whole host of reasons. So I just wanted to give that a little honorable mention. I guess our final 5 are the way hot moments, because this episode was really all about love and romance, and you can't have love and romance without way hot. I would say number 2 would be the return of Bunny, Jan Arden, those kind of meta boops to everything. Her getting up on stage and performing her song, a whole lot of love there. 3 would probably be any of the glittered couple pairings, which everybody kind of paired off and with their own right. There were a lot of moving parts there. So the glittered couples would be a third moment. And then breaking off of that, the Doc and Wynonna glittered, and then when they were not glittered anymore, that kind of heart-wrenching moment that they had together would probably be like 4. And then 5 would probably be Doc and Cleo on the Magpie Ranch and all of those scenes together.
I think that's a great top 5. This episode was so good that there were so many moments that mashed together because it was a great ensemble episode where there was a lot of things happening with the characters together. Whereas sometimes we have 3 different stories happening on screen between the characters, but this was kind of like everyone all together. They were all glittered. They all got spelled together. So it made it tough choosing, but I think that we chose some good ones.
So there you have it. That's our top 5 for the episode. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let us know. Send us your own top 5. Allison, where can they find us?
You can follow us on Twitter at Earp Top 5.
And you can follow me personally at Laura Meet World.
And you can follow me at No Way Hot.
So see you next time.
Bye, guys. Thanks for listening.
Bye.